Welcome to Transformational Awakenings for the Health Conscious. My name is Carrie Rose and I will be your host. Today I'm going to be talking to Christy Foster. Christy Foster is a craniosacral therapist and a pioneering educator, speaker, and mentor in the field of body-mind integration. She specializes in teaching health and wellness practitioners on how to interpret the subconscious languages of the body. I met Christy while I was doing my training as a psychosomatic therapist, and I could tell right away when I met her that she was just such an amazing person. She carried on with her studies in psychosomatic therapy, and she is the first certified teacher of the psychosomatic therapy process in the United States by the Psychosomatic College in Australia, where I actually also took my training. Christy is able to not only see clients or do virtual clients, but she also is, as I said, the first certified teacher that she can actually teach psychosomatic training in, now with the new stuff that's going on in the world, she can do it virtually everywhere, but based out of her practice in Utah, USA. So what is psychosomatic therapy? Psychosomatic therapy is the psyche, the mind, and the soma, the body. And it's understanding the messages in your body. So when you first are learning this process, it's really important that you learn about yourself. It all starts with you. And so Christy is able to do that, and she helps you interpret those messages within your body. So I'll stop talking about her, and instead I'd like to welcome her to the show today.
So for people that don't know what psychosomatic therapy is, how would you describe what you actually do for a living?
That's such the question of questions. I have such a mix of what I do. Psychosomatics is what I would call the biography of our lives held within the body, held within the psyche, the soma, how our life experience has manifested physically in the flesh, how we're standing, walking, even the slightest way of how our head tilts. It's a different way of seeing ourselves to understand our life experience up to this point in time, and noticing what that is, being aware of your challenges and gifts within that, and then taking that into your life and creating change, keeping the things you love about your biography. Sometimes I think the human experience, there always are some things we want to shift. And that's where psychosomatics for me is so valuable, because the body is a roadmap for change, because we can physically see it. It's so tangible. Energy is involved, but this is as tangible as which way your foot is pointed when you're standing. And sometimes even the simplest piece of understanding why you process or tend to stay in your analytical mind more often, that type of person will have their head tilted to the right. So when I'm looking at someone's system, their body, I'm looking at all those cues that their system is giving me, so I can relate to them what I see, so they can better really understand who they are at their core. And I'm certainly an observer in that. So it's a process of teaching someone to come back to a space of love and acceptance within themselves as they continue to move and experience life.
Awesome. So it sounds like we have this physical body, this soma, that can change because of our psyche.
Yeah.
So you can observe me and you can see things about me because of how my body is. But then can I also observe myself and learn things about myself because of how my body is?
Yes. So let me give you an example. When I see a new client, someone who hasn't seen me, the first thing that I explain to them is, okay, if we look at how your feet are, and they'll say, what do you mean? And I will say, okay, I want you to start paying attention to when you're standing, how do your feet land? So the simplest piece of sometimes one foot will be turned out to the right or the left. And that, I'll just go through really basic, that can be a lens through which someone sees a little bit of confusion, not sure which way to go in their life. The right foot can be pulled in or the left foot. Everyone has something. I've never seen anyone that didn't have something in how their feet are, because we are our life experience and our lens comes from that. So feet turned in, feet turned out, everything means something. So what I would tell you, Carrie, is what your body means, what that means for you, and give you some ideas of how to better balance that when you leave me. Because we live our daily life. Most of us are we are hardwired to survive.
Right.
Right? We are hardwired. We have all the survival archetypes that Carl Jung talked about. And no one is immune from that. And so our bodies start to develop ways of showing up physically and I would say emotionally as well, because they go hand in hand. And the more that we can become aware of when our body might be in survival mode, and we can literally step out of survival mode and just take a moment to take a breath, settle back into our body, it regulates the nervous system. It's something that sounds so simple, Carrie, and it's probably one of the most difficult things.
Yeah.
Is we like to be intellectual because we understand it. And when the body starts to react, or when there's an activation in the system, it is so natural, for example, for your foot to go back to the way it's always been. So say your feet go out. Let me just use that as an example. You get activated, the feet go out, and we become detached from our physical body. We go into survival mode. And the beautiful thing about psychosomatics, if I could just teach you to do one thing, to put your feet straight and take a breath. And I tell people to literally touch either their hand or touch their leg to let the body know that you're safe.
Right.
And to take a breath in that just for a moment with your feet coming back to center, and then go about your day. It disrupts that survival mode pattern that people get into, that we all get into. Please know I include myself in that. And in that disruption, the cycle changes. The more that we can disrupt that cycle of survival and the fight, flight, freeze mode, the more control we have over a bigger piece of our life. And to regulate the body is a really big deal. And sometimes, Carrie, I've worked with a lot of people with trauma, and we hear this it's everywhere. To take deep breaths, breathe, breathe, breathe. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm going to say, when there's been high traumatization, sometimes taking a breath creates more activation. And so the smallest thing, which is not small, to put your feet straight might be enough.
Right.
To regulate the nervous system again.
Right.
And it's very gentle. And it's such a space of duality, because it's simple and it isn't simple. Because the body goes into an activation, and our bodies are meant to survive. And so what your body will say is, I don't know what she's doing, but this isn't what we do. And so it's such a learning process to teach your physical body to show up a different way.
Totally, because we've been programmed, or we have programmed ourselves for that survival instinct.
Yes.
Right from birth. We take in our environment and we learn right from that moment, what maybe even beforehand, right? In utero,
beforehand.
What is safe and what isn't, and we create these patterns, and we, as we go through life, those patterns may no longer serve us. In fact, they may be doing the opposite. They may be doing harm. So I have a question about that, because because this is common in my practice. Well, my left hip, it's bad because my mom's left hip was bad, and I fell off my bike. You can't tell me that my left hip hurts because I'm upset or I have anxiety, because I fell off my bike when I was 6 years old, and I know that I really bruised my hip, and that's why it's weak, and that's why I have problems, and I'm just using that as an example, but yeah, that could be a story that a client may come in with. But when I look at their body, their entire left foot and the femur and everything is pointing north or pointing somewhere else. So how do you address that then when people just maybe they have resistance, or they don't quite understand that relationship between their psyche and their soma?
I move lightly in that. When I have someone like that, which I think is, we like to ask questions and understand it. And I would ask the person to get curious with me, to ask, so the left side of the body, for example, since we're using that.
Yeah.
So the left side of the body represents our feminine side, which is our soul side, the side of us that needs more nurturing. It's our creative side. It's self-care side. So if I see someone with a hip that's off, and I also hear, because I'm listening to what the story does matter.
Yes.
Because it's tied to the biography of the body. When I'm hearing that story, what I'm hearing is a multi-generational way of surviving in that family system. And sometimes, depending, I will ask, with your mom's hip pain, was she one of those kinds of people that served and helped people and never put herself first because she was very loving and giving? I would say most of the time, because I'm aware of what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Most of the time they'll say, yeah, she was the most loving person. She'd do anything for anyone. And that's where I begin to explain. And this pattern of left hip pain comes from the multi-generations of probably your mother's, grandmothers, not having the resources, or I would say the knowledge, to take care of themselves, because it's selfish, because there wasn't time, because there wasn't money. There's all these reasons. Mm-hmm. And today, this person in my office, say that's her, you have the choice to possibly shift that within your family system. It's so much bigger than we are.
Oh, I love it.
It isn't my butt cheek hurts, right? It's a systemic piece of giving too much and never slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I would go into that. Because I'm looking at a holographic picture. When I see someone, I'm looking for threads to grandmother, grandfather, family systems, family dynamics, survival mechanisms, survival languaging. I'll look at survival pieces in the flesh. Where is it showing up in the body? So for me, it's never one thing. It's many threads that put that piece together.
Right. Right.
That's
So
a long answer to a
no,
question.
I love it. I love it because that's what I want. The listeners, I hope that you're loving this as much as I am, because this is, we are so much more than what you see, what you feel. We encompass, like what Christy just said, generations, and I believe that, you know, all the carbon and nitrogen and all the molecules that make up a human being, that make up, they're the same molecules that make up the trees and the rocks and the flowers, and we're all connected. We're connected right now together here on earth, and we're connected through our ancestries. And so when we look at the human being as just an entity of itself, I feel like we're really doing ourselves a disservice, because we're so much more than that. And so I think, you know, this conversation is truly a gift for us, you and I, Christy, together, as well as for the listeners. And if the listeners can get a sense of, oh, like some kind of light bulb moment. Well, yeah, you know, my right shoulder, I have always experienced this, or my lazy eye, or my low back pain, or my Crohn's disease, or maybe there's more about this than I've ever considered. And maybe through our conversation today, a listener can walk away today with some hope. And that, to me, is invaluable, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. So your answer's not too long at all. I mean, I could talk about this with you forever. So.
Yeah, we are kind of nerds in that.
Totally. So one thing that we learned in our training, and just so that you listeners know, Christy is actually a psychosomatic teacher, and she has gone through the whole process to get that very dignified title. And so she does have classes and offerings available if you're interested in learning more about psychosomatic therapy. But one thing that we did that I thought was kind of fun, we learned how to do some face reading. Mm-hmm. So very generally, because I mean, this is like a 3-day course, at least minimum. It's a lifetime course to read people's faces. But very generally, can you give the listeners a little idea about face shapes, and what, in a very general sense, because each, as we've just learned, unique circumstances and life experiences are going to mold and shape people in different ways, and you have to take in the whole picture. But there are some structures about a person's face that we can use as generalities to get a little bit of an idea on personality.
Yeah, absolutely. So in our face, so our bone structure is referred to as the blueprint of the soul. So we come in with a certain bone structure that we can't change. It is part of how we're put together. I would say even if people get surgery, the structure still overall is the same. So for example, let me go through a few basics. So someone with a very square jawline, we've seen those people super square. I often see them as news anchors, which I think is interesting. That jawline, my oldest son has this square jawline. Those people are very resolute. They can be extremely stubborn in their way of thinking. If you think of a square on a table, the square is not going to move very easily because it's flat and it's immobile unless we physically pick up the square. So those kind of people tend to actually be quite good leaders if they're well balanced in their thinking mind, which takes its own work. But these people tend to be the leaders and to take charge because they have the capacity in their bone structure to do very difficult things. And so each face shape has a gift and challenge. So the gift of the square-ish is that ability to do difficult things, and they tend to be earthy people. The challenge in that is being flexible in their thinking. So that's one. We'll go over a few. Let's go from square to round, just for opposite. So if we put a ball on a table, the ball's going to move. There's no base for it like the square jaw face. So someone with more of a round face, this person tends to be very fun loving, very adaptable. They shift into whoever is in front of them. Where this square face, they don't even know what that means. It's not even in their realm of, they don't know how to do that. But the round face, that rounder face, especially in the jawline, they are fun. They're easy to be around. You're comfortable around them. So that's the gift. And the challenge in that is they can be easily manipulated because they don't have a strong foundation in their structure. Okay. Let's do a couple more. So if we look at an inverted triangle, so the face, the jawline comes down and it's smaller almost to a point. So if you put a point, think of a triangle on a table and the point on the table, what happens?
Boink.
It's going to move to the right or to the left. And so this type of person, and I would say, especially if you have a child or someone close to you that has this face shape, they are highly, highly sensitive. They came into the planet sensitive. That's never going to change. It is who they are. That is their gift and the challenge at the same time. Those people have to learn, eventually they get to learn how to have a foundation within their sensitivity and how to have good boundaries. So that's that one. And the opposite of that is the bigger jaw going up into a point at the top of the head. So the forehead gets smaller. This type of person tends to blow their top easily. The challenge of that stubbornness in that square face, but going pointed at the top, can be like a volcano if they're not aware that their emotions might swallow their emotions easier. And then it creates energy in the system. Volcano eventually, even if it's 1,000 years later, does blow up. Move with it, flow with it, process it, it can blow up. And that type of face, and I don't see it often, I really don't, but those type of people are so strong-willed, and if there's not a balance, they tend to explode easily.
Right.
So you do have gifts and challenges in every face. When I look at a face and I read a face, I'm looking at your intellect, which is in your forehead. How you process information is different based on the shape of your forehead, the size of your forehead. Our eyebrows represent the separation between the heart and mind. So how do we process between our emotions and our thoughts? Our eyebrows tell me that. The eyes represent the heart. We've heard that many times, which is why we connect with people looking into their eyes. We're connecting to the heart space. The nose is our personality. So everyone has a very different nose. Mm-hmm. And understanding what your nose looks like, how you interpret things, how people might take you is very helpful. Our mouth is our communication and our relationship zone. Also good to be aware of when you're dating. In if you like someone that communicates well or a lot, that's something I would look at if I were in the dating world again, which I'm not. But I'm acutely aware that if I were, that's probably one of the main things I would look at, is I would like someone who could communicate well with me.
Right.
So, and then the chin has to do with our will. What will we do? What capacities do we have in that chin to do it with? And every line on the face indicates something. So it's like reading the headlines in a newspaper. Your headlines are read unconsciously by everyone that sees you. And for me, when I first learned face reading, I loved that I understood my face better. I understood why I was sensitive, because I have a little chin. And sensitive people are often told they're too sensitive. And for me, that was such a beautiful thing. I'm like, well, my God, I am, because that's how I was made.
You know, Christy, that's funny. I had the exact same experience. It wasn't my chin. It's my structure, my bone structure of my eyes. And as a kid would be called puppy dog eyes. I have eyes that turn down a little bit. And I remember my instructor during that course just saying, Carrie, you're sensitive, you're emotional. Emotional was the word. And then I personally have a very pronounced forehead, and I didn't have very astute eyebrows. So since then, I've accepted my sensitivity. I lead my life with my heart now, but I'm able to balance it with my intellect. And I feel like I just learned so much. And I actually went after and got my eyebrows tattooed just so that I would have a distinctive line separating my heart zone and my intellect zone. And I feel like that was life-changing for me, absolutely life-changing. But just the awareness and the acceptance of who I am, rather than trying to, I owned a business, a wellness center at the time at that time, I think I was down to, maybe I had like 15 staff. I had upward of 22 at one point. And I was trying to run that business as a corporate person, rather than who I truly am as a sensitive, emotional person. And it led to me having a breakdown. I actually had a physical breakdown. So learning how to accept who I am, my life has been on a completely different, positive trajectory since that acceptance. So the physical way we manifest who we are is so vital. It's so important. And it's such a gift when we can take this opportunity. And I like to say to my clients, and learn it for yourself first. Really learn about you, and then worry or think about the people around you and how you can help them. Because when the true gift is being able to accept ourselves for who we are. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, because we've all heard the phrase, you can't give what you don't have. And that is acceptance.
Yeah.
It's not, if we can't practice, and I'm going to say practice, if we can't practice acceptance, and sometimes it's on a daily basis, well, usually it is, we're not going to have the compassion and acceptance for other people that we would like to have in general. Because looking at ourselves and accepting us unconditionally matters to be able to accept other people unconditionally. And I do think our planet needs more of that.
Oh, I agree.
And less separation from self. More connection to self actually would create more connection to the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the message.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is it? So you see like you said, that you have people who come to your clinic to see you. And what else do you do? Like if somebody felt like, I want to learn psychosomatic therapy, is this a something that everybody should learn, or should you be at a certain point in your life? And how would they go about doing it? But through contacting you?
Good question. Yes, anyone can learn it. I think if given the opportunity, I would suggest anyone learn it for their own well-being and their own personal growth. If it's something you're interested in, I would suggest contacting me and having me do a face reading on you, for example. Dip your toe in the water. Maybe you'll jump in I jumped in the water because it's something I was called to. And I do sessions over Zoom, so you don't have to be in person. And from there, I would highly suggest getting a body reading, because it'll give you a better idea of how your body's put together and why that might be. What are some of the systemic pieces that might correlate with your family? And so I also do that. And then on my website, which will give you the link to that, christyfoster.co, you can look at what I have to offer, contact me from there, see the courses I'm offering, more and more where it's online and accessible versus having to, like for me, I went to Canada, went to Costa Rica, went to Canada, and I live in the United States in Utah. And so I did get to travel, and this is a different world today. It's a different world, and having accessibility to online content is here now. So I'm excited to be able to offer that people don't have to travel if they don't want to.
That's awesome. Now, I'd like to just throw in there, if you're listening today and you yourself are a healthcare practitioner, first of all, I would highly, highly, highly suggest that you learn psychosomatic therapy for yourself, first and foremost. But for your practice, if you are working with people, whether you're working on a psychological level or on a body as a body worker, or even if you're in sales, if you're working with other people, this may be something that you want to consider learning more about, is psychosomatic therapy with Christy. And she's going to tell you why right now, because she's probably much more eloquent than myself at explaining.
Well, the why is because if people are coming to you, and I'm speaking as a therapist here, if people are coming to you, they're coming for a reason. And if you have the ability to see people where they're at, understand why their left hip might be hurting, to understand why they might be clenching their jaw, the why is answered. And I think the edge that it gives you as a therapist, no matter what kind of health practitioner you are, the edge that gives you is exponential in your business. Because if your intention is to connect and help, psychosomatics makes that 10 times bigger, because you actually know how to language to someone based on their face and body type. You know how to speak to them. You understand how they're going to process what you have to say. And sometimes having that is enough to have your client. It will fill up your practice faster than I can even say, because the referrals happen like wildfire, because someone will come in, they will feel seen and heard. Gotta go. I don't know what she did, but oh my gosh, you gotta go. That's really what I hear. They'll come to me and say, I don't know, she said it's something different, but she said I need to come, so I'm here. Because people want to heal.
Yeah. Yeah, and connection is such a huge part of that.
Massive.
And especially right now, it's missing, and that is one of the beautiful things about being able to do this work via Zoom, and to be able to connect maybe in this way when we can't connect in person. So yeah. It's truly a gift. As we close up our conversation today, I have another question for you. Of all the stuff that you have awareness of, what do you love the most about your practice, about working with people? What lights your fire?
I love that moment when people see themselves, when they're able to let go of a piece of judgment. That's what I love.
That's beautiful.
Because it helps their body go. It's a layer of energetic weight that comes off. That's what I love.
I love it. And just like I said right at the beginning, when I first met you and being in that room and there was a room of, I don't even know how many people. We were there for learning, and Christy, when we'd go around the room and share, and every person that spoke, because I'm an observer, every person that spoke, I was watching, and Christy connected. You did. You connected with every single person in that room, and every single person who was sharing, or as we were going through, I could feel that sense of connection and comradeship between you and whoever was there. And it was a beautiful thing to witness. It truly was. I don't think I've shared this with you before, but it was definitely a moment, or moments, the whole 10 days that we were together, that you bring a sense of understanding and knowing when you are in communication with someone. And so if you're out there and you're looking for if you're on your journey for healing and health and wellness, head over to Christy's website, Christy Foster. It's with the CH, Christy with a Y, CHY. I guess I can say all the letters, CHRISTY, foster.co. And just check it out and send her a little email and see if you resonate and see if you connect. And yeah, the psychosomatics, for me personally, if the listeners are part of my tribe, most of you know I did have a breakdown back in 2015, and it was the psychosomatic therapy that was the stepping stone for myself to get out of those, I call it the depths of despair. When my kids found me hyperventilating on the floor, unable to breathe, and literally pulling my hair out in clumps. And I can say from the depths, from my heart, that psychosomatic therapy is why I am still here today. It is definitely why I'm still here today. And it was the first course that I've taken ever that I actually, with intention, showed up for me, not as an add-on for my clinical practice, not for somebody else, not because I was thinking about a family member and wanting to help. I actually showed up for me, and that was the best gift that I have ever given myself and that I have ever received. And so if you're there, if you're at that place, if you can resonate with that, or if you know that you just need a little bit more, you need a little bit more knowledge and understanding about yourself, then you need to get a hold of Christy. So
thank you so much, Christy, for joining me today. I just had so much fun speaking with you. I know that I can speak to you forever and ever and ever. We speak the same language. So again, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, if you want to learn more, please go to Christy Foster's website, christyfoster.co, and go under events. And coming soon, she has her Emotional Anatomy 101. It's a 2-day intensive course for you to just begin to start learning about the messages within your own body and how to decipher those. Find her on Facebook as well, and she's always sharing great tidbits of information on her social media pages on how you too can learn to understand the messages within your body. Feel free to contact me directly, Carrie at carrierosehealth.com. I'm easy to find, Carrie Rose Health. That's all you need to do, and you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, through my website, email, however you'd like to find me, and I'll be there for you. My job, my inspiration, my motivation is to raise the vibration of the entire world, creating positive experiences and opportunities for you and everyone who wants to be the best that they can possibly be.